Okay, so had to do a little pause. A lot of things going on. Welcome everybody, Mrs. B.
Mr. B.
Here we are, date night with Mr. and Mrs. B, as well as becoming four men, becoming two women, and we're gonna get right into it. This was a conversation that we've had. Now, there's obviously disclaimers to this conversation, but we're gonna get right into it. So we want each and every one of you, whether you're, and we're going to break it down from if you're in a relationship, if you're single, we're going to break it down on so many levels that by the time you guys are done with this call, we're going to play a nice little game and the question you're going to ask your partner or ask yourself. So this episode, we want for each and every one of you, and Mrs. B and myself, we're going to do that. Now, she didn't know that yet, which goes to show how we don't rehearse things. But we're actually going to do it in not just asking you to do it. All right. So we're gonna do a little exercise, and we want for you to speculate. What would someone else see in your mate or your partner or your husband or your wife? What would someone outside of your relationship see in that person? Now, I know many of you, you're very, very, very smart out there. So I'm going to tell you exactly what this speaks to. This literally speaks to, and I had a conversation with one of my friends, that I work with. And he said, yeah, basically what you're saying is one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? Yes, exactly. But we're going to take it to a whole other level, right? So the question was asked several times before, and we're going to show you where we're going with this. I promise you we're going to clear it up. So this question was asked, what would someone else outside of your relationship? Now, I asked this to a couple that I was actually working with. And what she started off saying was, no, I said it can't be how you see them now. It would be like how someone on the outside will see your man and want to step to him. What would they see that would make them want to step to him and approach him, right? So she went on to describe all that stuff, and I turned to him and I said, how did that make you feel? And he said, it made me feel really good. I said, now what would you say about it? Now here's the thing. Ladies got it down packed, because what did we say is the title of the book, right? Every woman wants four men, every man wants two women, right? Now, that being said, the answers are going to be different, but don't get offended, ladies, okay? We want two women. So how women will describe it is different than how men will describe what another man will see in their partner. But we take it a step further, right? Any of you that are parents out there, depending on the age of your children, if your children ever had a sleepover, right? What do they turn around and say? Oh my gosh, how you as a parent, you would ask, how did my child behave? And they'll be like, oh my gosh, they were such an angel. They were so good, beautiful, this and that. And then you're thinking, wait, what? My child?
That's my kid?
Are you talking about my kid? No, serious? And they'd be like, yeah, I'd have them over anytime. They were perfect angels. And they'll use words like perfect angels. And you'd be like, wait, what? So what we're talking to is that every time you get in, you're in this relationship and there's a period of time, you start to discover things about that person and you start seeing them through a different lens. When you're dating, you see them in a different lens. And as you get into the relationship, you try to look at them in the same lens, but then you start seeing other things. Some relationships, the man snores, or, different little things, snoring, farting, burping, stinky toilet, not flushing the toilet, men not putting down the toilet seats after they use it. All those things start changing the lens. And all of a sudden, all you see in this person is a burping, farting, stinky, pee on the seat type of person. And you stop seeing everything else in that person. So now the question is, what would somebody on the outside see? So
Not
Mrs. B,
that.
Mrs. B
Not
and I,
that, because they're not sleeping with them. They're not living with them on a
exactly,
daily.
exactly.
They only
But
see the exterior. They don't really see the whole package.
exactly. But that being said, if you were to say so, if you were to say, for instance, someone comes up and steps to your man and say, "Man, I see this, I see that, I see that," right? And you start saying about all the other things. Well, he snores and he farts a lot and he's real stinky when he farts. He sits with his hand down his drawers and he's burping and blah blah blah. And you start pointing out all that stuff, and the woman still turns around and says, "Yeah, and." I would still, what I wouldn't give to have a man like that. So again, it kind of goes back to the whole thing, right? One man's trash is another man's treasure, or one woman's trash is another woman's treasure. So now we're going to do the exercise. So Mrs. B,
What did I get into?
ladies first,
Oh,
what would
yeah, of course.
what would someone else see about me? Not the things that you already know. Someone watching me, what would they see about me that would make them want to step to me?
I'll tell you because it's happened in front of my face.
Uh-huh.
So so they would see confidence, they would see strong, they would see tall, dark, and handsome.
Okay. So um thank you. Again, so now of course any man hearing that, as myself, will feel good to hear that, right? That someone else's perception of me is all those things.
Oh,
Now,
and very intelligent if they hear you speaking.
okay.
Like, when you're having conversations,
Mm-hmm.
because they listen intently. So,
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of other things too that we've experienced before. So we've cheated a little bit because we've experienced these things before and we've had these conversations. Now, flipping the script, now as a guy, and this is why many guys are normally a little bit shy or embarrassed to do this exercise, because it's going to be more physical, it's going to be more your doable type of stuff. So, you know, it's going to be the physical attributes. So for me, it'll be your smile, because that I know that's one of the things that attracted me. The fact that you're Latina and there's a certain spiciness about Latinas that, you know, I think many men go for. It would be one of the other things that you talk about when you talk about what, when I tell you was your smile and you said it was something else that I probably saw first. So, you know,
my assets, baby, my assets. That's what it is, sweetie. Just say it. It's okay. I
so
know you were never looking at this.
yeah, that's all I'm seeing now. But the tatas, right? But
Exactly.
but at the end of the day, us as men, what are the two women that we look for? A lady in the street and a freak in the sheets, or a freak in the bed, right? So when we talk about what another man would see to step to, now, folks, don't do this exercise if you're insecure, if you're the kind of person that, freaks out because somebody else look at your partner, you know. If you're a real jealous, overly jealous person, don't try this exercise. But if you're pretty secure in your relationship, the reason for doing this is real simple: to change the lens. Now, let's look at, you know,
Mm.
anyone that wears glasses or knows someone that wears glasses, right? Right? there's only two ways that it goes. Your eyesight is either going to get what? Better, or it's going to get worse. Now, either way, you have to go back to the eye doctor and change the lens, because if your eyes is getting better, if you keep trying to look through things through those same lens, it'll be blurry. It would not be proper. So why are we not changing the lens periodically in how we see our partner, and always maybe getting a different perception of how our partners are? And the same thing goes in any form of relationships. We need to constantly change the lens, because if you go to the doctor, like I said, your eyes are either going to get worse or it's going to get better. Either way, you're going to have to change the type of frame and the lens that you're looking at things through, right? To always clear the vision up. So at the end of the day, we don't do that in our relationships. And then that's why relationships tend to struggle at certain times the longer we're together. And if you find yourself getting in and out of relationships, then a lot of times you'll see that one common thread, that you're not changing the lens from when you first met them. And you can go back to that lens, but then switching it up a little bit so you can see some of the other things that somebody else would see in that person. So for Jessica and myself, when we talk about this topic, we talk about simple things like, now I get to see what kind of heart she has. She has a big heart. She's willing to give. You learn more about a person. So that helps change the lens a little bit if you're paying attention, right? But are there bad habits that we all have from time to time? Yeah. And it might be just bad habits to the other persons, because what? Opposites attract, right? But now let's take it to another level. So there's people who, they seem to get tired of their partner, and they want out. And we actually had an episode like that about the grass always look greener is the grass really greener on the other side, and you just need to water it? Well, this is a spin-off of that. You just have to change the lens in how you look at your partner, and realize that it's not going to be the same, but keep seeing them for who they are. Because what happens is that many times, let that person or somebody else start being attracted to that person, or maybe trying to get that person from you, and see how fast you trip. See how fast you get all kinds of upset, because somebody else is willing to step to your partner and treat them the way that they deserve to be treated. And even if you were to tell them all the things, the horrible things that this person does, all the bad habits they have, they're saying, I will see past that any day. I will look past that. I don't care about that. This is a good person, right? Now, we don't have that issue between Mrs. B and myself, but at the end of the day, that's all there is to it. So, what are you going to do with that exercise? I want for you to share with us the outcome. Ladies, do not beat up on your man if his answer is not going to be the same and as in-depth as your answer. Because what happens is Mrs. B, when she went down the list, she checked all of those, pretty much those 4 men. And you'll find, because there's more, 4 men versus 2 women, the list will be longer what the women will check out. But it's going to be a fun exercise. Now, I did promise the single people. Now, for the single people, here's your version of the exercise. So the question is, what presence do you have when you enter into a room? Now, think of a room at a gathering or something like that. And yes, you got to think back a little bit further before COVID. But think back to what presence, and if you're in a relationship, you can do the same exercise too, right? What presence do you have when you enter into a room, right? That you feel you project. And then you can ask someone else, who saw you in a situation or maybe in a different room situation, what was your first impression of me when you saw me enter into this room? And see how close the answers come around. Because then that would prove how you perceive yourself and how others perceive you. Now we know you know, yeah, people are judgmental and all that stuff. But yeah, sometimes we project we wear a certain outfit, we wear certain, we put on our makeup a certain way, we wear our hair a certain way, you know, for a reason, because we want to project something, right? See how it matches to what others people's perception of you is. And then, you know, then you can figure out how you want to tweak it. If it's spot on, you're doing all the right things. That shows how much you know yourself. If it's not, you can go back and tweak a little bit. I guarantee you, if you're being 100% authentic in who you are, you'll do just good. So, any thoughts on that exercise, Mrs. B?
No, it was just interesting.
You know, this is one of those situations where, you know, you can tell we don't rehearse this stuff. Sometimes Mrs. B gets the topic the day before, or in this case, it was early on this week. I think it was something like Wednesday. But the topic actually comes around from real life situations that we see and that I observe within relationships. Um, so yeah, do that exercise. It's gonna be a fun exercise.
I
And
guess
please,
it was a fun exercise. I mean, it was interesting only because, you know, I probably never thought about that.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
how anybody else, you know, would see me in their eyes, you
Mm-hmm.
know,
Yep. Yep.
because you're with me, you're married to me, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. But you know, there's things that in a relationship people get aggravated and irritated about, you know, and within a couple, and they're going at each other. And we saw a lot of that last year with the pandemic, where a lot of couples were kind of like bickering and getting in and being annoyed almost with each other. And they lost sight because they never changed the lens in how they view their partner. But let somebody else step to them, you know. If she's in a flannel night pajamas, there might be somebody that might be turned on by a flannel pajamas. You know, she might have her hair in rollers, and some men will think, "Hey, that's natural
Rollers
beauty, right?"
is a hot thing.
You know, that's natural beauty right there. You know, she don't wear makeup around you, and you're one, you know, you're looking at her like, oh my gosh, she don't even put on makeup for me or whatever. And somebody else will see that and say, oh, I love nothing, she looks like the girl next door, she has that natural beauty. There's always going to be a different lens of how people see your partner. So I hope that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people. And definitely start talking about it, have that conversation like we always encourage. And yeah, we'll see you next week where Mrs. B will be. Yeah, right here. So
Ah,
um, on that note, everybody, have a great weekend. Mrs. B, let them have it.
love up on each other.
All right, everybody, take care.